Welcome to the show, everyone. Today's guest is Justin Donald. Justin was once deep in the golden handcuffs, working as a division manager for Cutco Knives and parent company Vector, trading time for money and hoping someday life would slow down enough for him to enjoy it. When his daughter was born, something changed, and he made a promise to himself. Every recital, every birthday, every moment, he'd be there. That commitment led him to create an entirely different path. In just a few years, he built an 8-figure net worth and a portfolio of passive income that allowed Justin and his wife to quit their jobs and design a life of true freedom. I'm excited to have Justin on the show today to share how he uses his lifestyle investing strategy to align with his values, mitigate risk, and create cash flow to live his life with intention, focused on his family. And with that, Justin Donald, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Eric. Great to be here, and always fun kind of connecting off air and talking about all the mutual friends we have in common and how we learned about each other. So looking forward to being here.
Likewise, it's taken us a few months to get this pulled together. I think you had a couple cancels, I had a couple cancels, and so here we are finally. And to
it was meant to be.
Only a few hundred miles apart, right here in the beautiful state of Texas.
That's right.
And I was just down in your neck of the woods, down in Central Texas, just this weekend, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
Further down in the lovely town of Bryan College Station.
Yeah.
Little football game. So
yeah, scary. Almost lost there. It was a scary win.
Well, it was a crazy game. So I'm not an Aggie, but I have some dear friends that are like die-hard Aggies. I think most Aggies are die-hard. And so they're like serious Aggies, have season tickets, have gone to games for years and years. And we stumbled into this where they're like, hey, it's coming to the end of the year. How would you like to come enjoy an Aggie game with us? Just come down, experience it, come to the game. And we were like, well, it sounds like a lot of fun. So we went down with them, and then the team proceeds to like absolutely implode,
right?
Series after series after series. Yeah. And they end up down at the half 30-3. And I'm like looking at my wife like, they're going to throw us off the roof of the stadium, thinking like, what wrinkle in the force has happened? Like something happened that we brought someone's here that shouldn't be here, and it's causing the team to play like they haven't played all year. And so like they're going to kill us. And so we said to our friends, like in jest, like they were, not in a happy mood, and we're like, man, we're never going to be invited back. And they kind of laughed. And I said, or the Aggies are going to score 4 touchdowns in the second half, and they're going to win 31-30. I literally said the word.
Good for you.
And I was like, I hope they remember that. And then my good friend's wife said, you called it at halftime. They were going to win 31-30. I'm like, I'm just hoping to get an invite back. So yeah, an insane game. So happy for them that they got to win. We were Aggies for the day, so we were cheering hard for them, and it was a lot of fun. So yeah, it was cool.
And now you'll be invited back.
We'll be invited back, and I don't have to carry that burden. Like, man, we screwed up their undefeated season, and it cost them all this stuff. And yeah, I don't have to carry that. We will be invited back. We're probably a lucky charm now, so I'm sure we're going to maybe get a lot of invites. I think anytime they need to really win a game, we'll probably be there.
I like it.
I don't know. I think so. So anyway, tell me a little bit about you, Justin. Where'd you grow up, man? Did you grow up in Central Texas, or how did you end up in Austin? What's that look like?
No, I grew up in a suburb of Chicago. That's where my parents were at that time, and they've since moved here to Austin. But grew up in a small. Well, I don't even want to call it a small town, because in Chicago it would be considered a small town
Suburb.
But it's a true suburb. And
I thought I picked up a little Midwestern accent there.
Yeah, I still am hanging on to it. Yeah, some hard days, and
right.
It's hard to kick it. But
right.
I had 2 incredible parents. Still have 2 incredible parents, and both of them were very working class. My mom worked at our church where we went, and really worked there most of my youth. And then my dad was either selling cars. Selling or fixing, I guess, equipment or like ovens, stoves, dishwashers.
Nice. Knows how to work with his hands. Did you get that? Did he pass that on? Can you do?
No, he passed it on to my brother, who is incredible. He started his own company. He's a biomedical technician, so he fixes all the equipment in hospitals, right?
Oh,
So
wow.
X-rays, CAT scans, CT scans, MRIs.
Smart guy, big
I
brain.
got none of that.
Wow.
I am not. I feel like I'm the least handy person in the family, including extended family. I don't enjoy it at all.
Nice.
But
Interesting.
but my
Because I know
dad
there's real
actually,
estate in the story. So I figured, oh, maybe
yeah,
there's some early stories about painting houses, which they're, hey, little known fact. I just learned today. Painting houses is a reference for being like a mob assassin.
yeah,
You didn't
yeah.
do that. So
I
you
did
were not a
not do
mob
that.
assassin or a house painter,
But
either
I'm
one.
glad I could tell you about an incredible book that is worth the read.
Yes, we're going to be looking that up after the show. I'm going to have to grab that. Painting houses.
Yeah.
I paint houses.
So young years, instead of, and by the way, I did have friends that worked for College Pro, and that was kind of their path. I
Yeah.
had some other friends that did Southwest Books. I ended up starting out in seventh grade selling newspaper subscriptions door to door, which
Okay.
at the beginning I was horrible at. I mean,
Hardcore.
yeah, I mean, it was 100% commission job. I'd never done sales. It was my first job. I literally didn't sell anything for weeks. I made no money for weeks.
But you kept
I
going
mean,
back.
I did. Well, the thing is, people say all the time, like, well, why didn't you quit? The thought never crossed my mind that I should quit. Like the only thing I thought about is I better figure out how to do this or I'm not going to make money,
That's awesome.
And so I eventually figured it out and got pretty good and started writing scripts for the team.
Oh,
Probably what 2 years later, the scripts that I used, my objections that I used, and kind of wrote out like we started using that for training. I would start training the young kids, and by my senior year, I was running my own crew, had my own friends and kids that I would drop off in neighborhoods selling newspaper subscriptions and coupon books, and I
and
would
so you had
make
to
a
find good earners, like a
that.
like a guy who's running a mob crew, right? You had to
There it
find good
is.
earners, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey,
and
this
really,
kid's
it's
not
funny.
earning for me. He's got to go, right? Got to turn the bike in.
Well, it's interesting. Like it kind of works like, any business, any, sports team or whatever, where you have the outliers and there are
Yeah.
very few of them. And then you kind of have the mean. And then you have some people that they don't last long at all. Right. So
Right.
they're, quick turnover there.
Yep. Okay. And so you were selling the Tribune or something else?
Well, I did sell the Tribune for a bit. I sold a lot of small. So gosh, there were a ton. The Daily Herald was one that I sold. Uh, there were like small neighborhood magazines because we would go kind of like an hour radius anywhere around.
Oh, wow.
So every little, neighborhood. I mean, we did Northwest Herald. We did like these weekly onlys. I mean, we sold everything.
Man. And Tribune on a Sunday, that's a big paper. You got to
It
know what you're
is.
doing,
It is.
If you had to max out the bike in the front, right? You probably had them all strapped down.
Well, and I never delivered them. I only sold the subscriptions. So we
Oh,
passed the rest of that
nice.
on. Yeah. So I never, I mean, I had a buddy that I would fill in as a sub on his paper route, but I never had a paper route. I literally just sold the subscriptions, turned it in, and someone else
Sweet.
then would do that at a different company. Someone else would handle all that.
No ink on your hands, man.
That's right.
Not getting
That's
dirty
right.
there. Right on. I love it.
Yeah, but the
Steady
trib
sales.
was tougher to sell because everyone had it. So we had to find the ones that people didn't have that they didn't
Mm,
want. That's why they didn't have them, and
right.
then we had to sell those.
What's the script, man? Do you remember the script that was like the moneymaker?
Well, what ended up happening is I realized that I wasn't telling any of my story. I was just coming out trying to sell. And I decided, you know what? I probably needed to let them know, hey, the reason I'm doing this is because I'm saving up for college. My parents don't have the ability to put me through college. They'll help as much as they can, but the reality is it's mostly on me. And so I'm trying to win a scholarship and save up money to be able to do it. And so that's why I'm out here. And so just changing that,
Man.
well, that was the first key. And then the second key was to actually recognize that there are only a handful of objections that people can give. So it's no, but no one says no. They say no because da da da. And I realized there's really only four things that people would say. So instead of being like surprised that someone said no, I just
Right.
started anticipating they're going to say no. Let me get real good at four things to say back. And then I just started closing, you know?
Love it, man. Dissecting the sales process as a seventh grader.
That's right.
I
That's
love
right.
that, right? What are my
So by
four
eighth grade, I
objections?
was actually pretty good, and in high school, I did very, very well. I made, I mean, I really only worked 2 or 3 nights a week, and I was pulling in $350 to $500 a week. You
As a high
know,
school kid,
as a high school kid.
back
Yeah,
when that was real money too.
that's right.
That's awesome. Man, okay. And so you're doing this in high school. Do you have plans? Are you also a good student, an athlete? What's happening?
Yeah, good student. I played some sports. I played soccer in high school, and then I definitely got good grades. School was generally pretty easy for me outside of maybe a few like honors or AP courses.
Yeah.
Math came pretty easy. English came pretty easy.
Yeah.
Um, and I liked it. I'm an eternal student. I like to learn. So school was fun for me. I enjoyed college. I mean, today I love going to seminars and, conferences because I just like to learn.
Right. Okay. So you have a learner's mindset. So you're planning to go to college, even though your folks are blue collar. You're like, nope, I'm going to school.
Yeah, I was planning to be the first person in my family to ever graduate from college.
Nice.
And so, yeah, I went to University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana,
Okay.
and
Fighting
um,
Illini.
that's right, and was a
Yeah.
business major there back when
Okay.
we were actually good at sports. We have a decent team. We've had a
Yeah.
decent football team, a basketball team the last couple of years.
Last couple of years. Yeah.
But I went on 2 decades of them being pretty awful. So
Right
it's
on.
nice seeing them
Those
back.
scars run deep. I got it.
Yeah. And really like, I was a finance major in the business school, and I got to take some really cool courses because the business school was rated back then as a top 20 business school. And I'm not
Yeah.
sure where it is today. I mean, I still think it's a pretty strong business program, but we used to get these adjunct professors that were world beaters in what they did, and they would come to give back and teach. And so, I took a class on arbitrage strategy
Oh, wow.
where you'd actually invest real money in mergers, acquisitions, and spinoffs. And our professor would actually split profits. So he would put the money, we would find the deals. If he liked them, he'd put up the money and split the take 50-50. So this is literally in college.
That's awesome.
I got selected to be one of 20 students in the business school to actually manage $1 million of an alumni's real capital for a year and just understand the world of trading stocks. And that was really fun. We made him a profit over that year, which was really cool.
No
But learned a
FINRA
lot
issues
about it.
there. No FINRA. No. Did you have to get any kind of license? Kind of
No,
nothing.
no, we didn't.
Screw it.
Nope.
Just do
I
it.
mean, I
Yeah.
think we all made the decisions, and I think our professor, who was a professional trader, would
Yep.
put in all the trades, but it was based 100% on us. He had no say.
Golly, that's awesome, man.
So
That's
that
got
was
to be
neat.
pretty unique.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a
Took.
I was a finance major as well. And we had like a senior level financial statement analysis class. You had to pick a company to follow. We picked on a team environment. We picked NEC, which is, I think, no longer around.
Yeah, I don't know it.
Analyze. It was a computer company. It stood
Okay.
for something computer, but it's big at the time. It was like any of the, it was like DEC or any of those of several that are gone now, but they were big. Analyze financial statements, make a buy recommendation or sell recommendation or hold whatever at the end, and but we didn't actually invest money, right?
Okay.
But yeah, so that's super interesting. And then you got to share the profit. That's also pretty cool.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, we had the top real estate owner in Champaign-Urbana that was our professor there. We got to go on site and do stuff with him as he was buying deals.
Cool.
We had a wealth management course with a guy that had really done well in insurance and real estate. And as a college student, he bought an apartment complex, lived in one of the units, and was maintenance for it. And so we went to University of Illinois, and that's how he kind of had his lodging and how he made money to pay for school. So he taught us. I mean, the level of professors that we had at that school was incredible. I
That's
really feel like
awesome.
I learned a lot.
You were set up for success. And so, what was
Yeah,
your
and it
plan?
wasn't boring. That's the
Yeah,
thing. It wasn't like, here's the 5 keys of marketing.
right.
Here are the 5 keys of sales. Like it was real world. This is what you do.
Yeah, and you could see the end state of like, if I do well at this, I make money at it. If I don't, I lose money. But you were in the game.
That's right.
Yeah, that's very nice. And so, were you thinking? What were you thinking at this point? You were going to graduate and then go do.
I thought I'd be a stock trader. Yeah,
Okay,
I thought I would work on Wall Street. I mean, I
that's
was
the plan.
pretty sure I was going to do that.
Yep. Okay.
I mean, I always knew, it's funny. I always loved math. So I wasn't I was kind of thinking something in that space. So, being a trader makes sense. Um, and then I was always saying I wanted to start my own company. And I was like, well, I could do both of those. And I even remember in my high school yearbook, like you would write down what you wanted to do or whatever. And I wrote down in there, I'm going to be a business owner. Not knowing any business owners, really. I guess my best friend's dad at that time was a business owner, but other than that, no one in our social circle was.
Yeah.
My parents weren't, none of our neighbors were. So it was kind of an odd thing to put down, but for some reason, I just thought that's what I wanted to do. And my mom kind of had me do this aptitude test. She's like, "Well, let's figure out, what your God-given gifts are going to allow you to do well with." And the thing that came up two times, I took this darn test two times and it said teacher. And I'm like, I
School
don't
teacher.
want to be a teacher. Teachers don't make a lot. I
Right.
want to make a lot of money. I want
Yeah.
to, do all these cool, crazy things. I want to go travel the world. I can't do that as a teacher. At
Right.
least I didn't think I could, or at
Right.
least, a traditional teacher.
Right. Sure.
But
That's
the
going to come up
irony
later.
is,
Yeah.
number one, I married a teacher. And number two, what I do for a living with Lifestyle Investor today is I'm a teacher. So
Yeah.
it really has come full circle. And it's really funny to see how that has played out. But yeah,
I
not
love
in a
it.
million years did I see life today the way it is back in college.
Isn't
I
that
for
interesting?
sure
Right.
thought I was gonna, go work for a big company, go out to New York or wherever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chicago Board of Trade or something.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, and that was a strong possibility too. I mean, part of me, I wanted to go to New York because I knew Chicago. I'd lived in Chicago. I'm like, what's the next big thing? But I mean, I could have done commodities there or something.
Sure. Yep. Yeah. Cause you got the CBOE right at the time and the
Yep.
Board of Trade. Yeah. And okay. So what, cause when I think about, being a trader or getting into like going to work for Merrill Lynch or something like that, cause that was my envision when I was a finance major as well. And then I learned quickly like, oh, that's a straight up sales job.
Yeah.
I'm going to be 21. When I graduated college, I was 21. Like, who in their right mind is going to give me their money to invest? Like, well, I don't know, And so I quickly went, well, maybe banking is better, right? So I went into banking, and I love
Okay.
banking. It was good chance to really understand how to analyze company financial statements, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But what was so if your vision was I'm going to go to Wall Street, what happened that changed that?
Well, it's interesting. So I was in a business fraternity. I was in a social fraternity and a business fraternity. And in the business fraternity, we had these opportunities to always connect with these companies that would always come through and they'd want to, put on these dinners, these pizza events and learn about them. It's their recruiting
Yeah.
tool. And all these companies that I met, I'm just like, I don't know. None of this really sounds that interesting. Like it it looked or sounded or felt more glamorous than what the reality that was presenting itself was.
Mm.
And then I did this thing where I became like well, I don't even know what it was called, but I basically got to work as an assistant inside of corporate America for this a bunch of big companies like Deloitte
Mm.
and Accenture, and just a bunch of the big powerhouses came and they simulated some things, did some group programs, ready to create some things, and it was kind of like they were sizing us up for like who are the leaders in this group that have some experience that we could hire. And I'm going through it like, this is boring. Like,
Yeah.
is this what I would do? And so you had all the big four accounting firms represented. You had a bunch of, we were doing some sort of like, I don't even want to call them simulations, but like, uh, basically working through different projects, working through different studies. And I was like, this is not for me.
Yeah.
I think I got to do a full pivot here. And this was senior year. So
Right.
I'm like, I don't
Wow.
even know what the heck I'm going to do, but none of this sounds good anymore.
Right. Wow. And so what are you doing then at that point?
Well,
What
my
pops up?
parents said interview to interview, and I had some other friends that are like, just
Yeah.
it's good to interview, get the
Right.
experience. And so I interviewed at a lot of companies. I interviewed at like Canon and Xerox and
Yeah.
just a number of different, big name companies, to just sharpen my skills. And all of them had interest, but I I couldn't do it. I couldn't pull the trigger. I was kind of like, what on earth am I going to do? Because
Yeah.
it's not this. And so it's really funny because I had so my senior year I was running my newspaper crew,
Yeah.
but then I also learned about Cutco and I was doing both at the same time. And I realized that if I worked really hard over here at Cutco, I could actually make a lot more than I was making with the newspaper subscriptions. I kind of,
Yeah.
pro forma'd out, where could I really get some, if I'm an outlier in each of these, where can I really make some good cash? And it showed the other one. So I actually closed down that at the end of the summer, my senior year, and I went full time. Well, let's call it. I don't want to actually say full time because
Yeah.
there's, in my head, I'm doing it full time because it's the only thing I'm doing. I'm probably, part time at best, but I did a good job. I had fun. I liked interacting with people. I liked the sales.
Yeah.
And then they had said, "Hey, do you want to run your own office?" And so I had done that. I'd run my own office as a college student, in between my junior and senior year of college. So after I'd spent a couple years at Cutco, so after high school is kind of that pivot into Cutco. And so I ran an office and I was like, this is a lot of fun. I like teaching people, I like training them. I like, this is great. So I kind of didn't know what to do. So I was like, well, if I graduate, I could do this. This could be a good placeholder. And this is probably better than working in corporate America from like a skills standpoint, like what I'm going to learn, how I might, maybe jump out on a resume. Like this likely has, a little more to talk about, a little more diversification from other applicants if I do want to go trade or do whatever. And so I did it and I just loved it and I just kept doing it.
Man, and Cutco. So it's interesting because I've had so many folks on my show that have sold Cutco knives.
Yeah.
I have not had my wife on my show, but she also sold Cutco knives.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, she sold Cutco knives in the near the mother, like the homeland. So basically in upstate New York,
Yeah.
Western New York, which is where I think the headquarters is.
That's right.
And, she sold Cutco knives. Now I tell you that my wife's not a natural born salesperson. I think she liked it because it was super flexible and it allowed her a lot of time to sunbathe in the summer. And
Yeah.
so she did a lot of sunbathing and then a little bit of selling. We still have the original Cutco knives that she sold, right? The kit you have to buy.
I love it.
So the starter kit. And now we have bought so many Cutco knives from friends' kids over the years. They are fantastic knives, and it is a great company.
It's a great product.
Yeah, it's a great product and a good place for college age kids to really learn the human skills, appointment setting, showing up on time. How do you go through a presentation? How do you ask for the business? Asking for referrals? All those things are taught. And so I was always excited to see my friends' kids come through after I'd watch them grow up. Then they go to college and they come back and sell me a Cutco knife. And it's a great business and you can make a lot of money at it. And so it becomes this as I've learned from interviewing so many people that have done it, you reach a point where you think, man, whatever I was planning to do in college, now I have to make this decision. Do I do that? Or do I keep making what is more money than I will make if I go do my college job thing, or keep making more money as a Cutco knife salesperson, right?
That's right.
Now there's these opportunities to manage stores or divisions or regions and different things. And it becomes really hard to decide, what am I going to do? And the draw is, man, if you're an accounting major, go be an accountant. And the parents I've heard stories of like, man, my parents really I got my degree. I need to go do that thing. But man, I wanted to just keep selling Cutco knives. And a lot did. And then many left it at some point down the road, like decided it was time for a change. But few cut the cord and said, okay, I'm making 50 grand selling Cutco knives as a college kid. How am I going to go make 30 or whatever, this is going back a few generations or whatever, in some starting job from Fortune 500 company. And so they would choose to stay, and a few chose to leave right out of the gate. So I want to hear from you. So now you jump into Cutco. Where does that take you?
Well, it's interesting because so first of all, I paid for my entire college education selling Cutco. So I'm forever grateful for that opportunity. I don't know how I would have had tons of, student debt and, would have taken me forever to figure out how to pay it off over the years. So I'm thankful to have just been able to make enough every single summer to be able to pay for my tuition every single year and room
Wow.
and board.
Yeah, it's awesome.
My second summer there, I had worked my way up. I was higher in percentage commissions, and I was better at the job. And so I remember that summer I made like between 15 and $20,000, and that was a ton. I
Yeah,
mean,
in
in
one
just a
summer.
summer,
Yeah.
Um, and back then, room and board and tuition were about 15. It was about 15,000 a year.
Yep.
Um, and I remember thinking, I'm making more right now than my parents are making. And then the next summer, when I ran my own office, I made $30,000. And I was like, I just made more than my parents this summer combined.
Yeah.
Like last summer, I made more than either of my
Right.
parents for that time frame.
Right.
And then I made more, combined both of them. I'm like, well,
In a summer. Yeah.
yeah, I'm going to have to give this a real hard look. And so for me, that was it. It was like I was making too good of money to go with anyone else for their starting salary
Yep.
because I knew I would make more. My first year with Cutco, I made over six figures.
Wow. As a young
And
college graduate. Yeah.
yeah. And so there was none of the job offers that I had were starting me anywhere close to that.
Yeah, for sure.
So it was the right move for me.
Okay. And so you go off into Cutco world and you're now making six figures. Are you married at this point or what's your family situation?
No, no. So, I had a serious girlfriend at that time, and I think, the thought is maybe she could be the one, but I'm not sure. I'm young. I'm still, figuring out a lot about me. Let me get my career set and
Mhm.
kind of make that evaluation later. And things just didn't end up working out. I had several very long. I mean, I think I had three pretty long relationships in a row, a year to 2 years plus for each of them. But none of them were the right ones. And by the way, it may have just also been me. Like I
Right.
wasn't ready yet,
Not the right time.
because they're all, I feel like I had a good, um, I had a bunch of great people that I dated, right?
Sure.
Like wonderful, wonderful women. But um, I just probably wasn't ready. I was still figuring out me. I mean, if I got married that young, I probably was too selfish back then, and I don't
Sure.
know how it would have gone.
Yeah.
Um, and so, I'm glad I waited for me because I feel like I was really able to grow up. I met my wife after I moved to St. Louis. I had an opportunity to take over more territory with Cutco
Yep.
and ended up building one of the biggest organizations in Cutco at that time. And so I met her there, and I was pretty sure right out of the gates that this could be or this is the one. And I was ready. I had at that point in time I was looking to get married. I had
Yeah.
stopped dating. I hadn't got. I had intentionally said I'm literally not going to like go on dates.
Yeah.
So it was either 6 or 7 months that I didn't even go on a single date because I just
Probably why
wanted to
you
be
built the
ready.
big, probably why how you built the biggest organization, Cutco, right? You're like, no distractions, right? We're
That's right.
building a business.
Built a big business, and then also didn't want to be distracted if I were, dating different people and maybe would miss the right one because I was too
Mm,
preoccupied.
right.
Um, and I think that was really good because it gave me the time to get clear on who I was looking for, so that when I found her, I was ready. Like I
Yeah.
knew that she is a person I need to spend time with.
Right on. Love that. All right.
Yeah.
And you said she's a school teacher or she's a school
Yeah.
teacher. So you guys get married and you're still, how long have you been in Cutco at this point as your career's kind of growing?
Well, I've been in it for over a decade at this
Oh,
point.
wow.
Um, I had sold for 3 years, and then I had been a manager for 7 or more years at that point in time when we had met. And I remember thinking, number one, I'm working really hard.
Yeah.
Um, I'm making good money, but I'm working really hard. And if I stop, I think my income will likely take a hit. it was too dependent on me. And I feel like I'd been getting better and better at building systems and hiring the right people. But I started seeing early on that for me to scale the way I wanted to, for me to build the life that I really wanted to, I needed to do it differently, and it needed to be something sustainable without me.
Mm,
So I knew I wanted to buy my time back, but the easier hurdle at that time was to buy my wife's time back,
yep.
because she had a strict schedule. So in the summers, she was super open and
Yep.
we could do stuff, but that was my busiest time of year. And then when I was really slow and we could travel and do all this stuff, it's hard for her, right?
Yep.
So we really just had summers and winter breaks, and it just didn't line up. That was my busiest and second busiest time of year.
Wow.
So I figured if we buy her time back, she can retire, we can start our family, but it also gives us flexibility to then travel on just one schedule. Like we can build it all around what my schedule looks like. And that worked out really well.
Yeah. Cool. All right. And what's interesting to me now, hearing that you were there a decade, you've built teams, you're a manager, you've you're it's easy for someone's identity to get really wrapped up in their career at that point, and it becomes more, in my perspective, more and more difficult to really make a massive change because you've built what easily can happen is you build a big lifestyle around a big income and a big
Right.
life, and you get identified with, well, I'm the XYZ, whatever the title is, with the big company and the big stuff that goes along with it. And it starts to get hard to see your way out of that. Right. And it's almost hard to envision, like, what would I even else do? Like,
Yeah.
what would it be? Right. So talk about that. As far as you mentioned, you're already starting to think about, how do I buy some of my time back? Because I'm giving more and more time, because man, it is so easy to get, it's like I'm going to buy a bigger house, or I'm going to buy a nicer car. I'm going to do bigger trips. And all of a sudden the lifestyle is, I can't go backwards. And in fact, I need everything that I'm making just to support what I'm doing. So what happened that you had that light bulb moment of, I'm going to do something very different? You don't hear people say that. I'm going to buy my time back, you
Yeah,
know?
it's interesting because so a lot of what you had said, like I'd moved up, I built a nice name for myself. We actually were performing very well. And so even within my third year being there, we were one of the top performers. And so the company sent out a video crew to basically record everything I do.
Hmm.
And back then I didn't know the value of IP or anything. So I just
It
gave
gave
it
it
away.
away.
Yeah. Gave the competition my entire playbook.
Yeah.
And so, it was interesting. So I had also built like a good name in the company too. So it's like all these things that make it harder to leave when you're the featured trainer and people are learning your training videos and you're speaking at events. And so
Mm,
there is a bit of ego that
mm,
kind of comes into play, right?
yep.
It feels good to be known. So yeah, it was. I mean, I took a lot longer than I probably could have or should have, even based on my original plan because of that.
Yeah.
But I also just recognize the bigger picture. The bigger picture is I don't want to be tied to time equals money. At some point, that has to get, broken.
Mm,
And how do I break that? Um, how do I create income from capital or income from assets? And so I started learning about it. I started asking people I knew who were successful, asking mentors, reading books, listening to, any just getting around anyone I could that had done it before. And I saw that a lot of people that I had access to or that I was learning about did it starting in real estate. And so that's what I did. And I figured I'm going to learn all these different forms of real estate, figure out what's best for me. I landed on mobile home parks.
okay.
I had a mentor willing to teach me, and I had a friend back then that went into it and said that he would, coach me and guide me, and then he offered me an opportunity to invest with him. And so I really got to understand the financials behind it. And I remember at the beginning, I was the hard money lender. Like I had cash, but I didn't have any experience. And so he's like, "Hey, you lend me money, I'll pay you 10%." And he's like, I'll guarantee it. He's like, I'll personally guarantee it. And I said, okay, I'll do that, but I want to understand it. I want to see the financials. And I recognized really fast, wow, he's making way more than 10% on my money.
Yeah.
He was making more than 10, he was paying me 10% and he was making more than 10%.
Right.
And I was like, why am I on the hard money side? I want to earn a better return. He's like, yeah, I
Right.
told you at the beginning, but you were dragging your feet. So I'm thankful that he, used this as an opportunity to get me
Sure.
involved. But once I started studying it, once I started figuring it out, one of the top largest owners of mobile home parks in the world took me under his wing and
Oh,
taught
wow.
me the business. And so I
How'd you
bought
make that contact? How did you make?
well, it was through my buddy who had gone to this other group's course and learned it and went to like a boot camp. And he's like, hey, the authority in the space is this guy, Frank Rolfe and Dave Reynolds. And Frank actually lived pretty close to me at the time. And so I decided I'd go to one of his events and get to know him. And I learned a ton. But we just so happened to be flying on the same flight back home.
Mm,
And so we were at the airport. I took him to dinner. I picked his brain more. We flew home together. We chatted on the way home. We got together after that. I mean, he lived 45 minutes from me. And he was just an open book. And I remember thinking, if I can find a property that cash flows what my wife is earning in one transaction,
mm,
I can buy her time back. Instead of like before, I was thinking, how many single family homes would I have to buy? Or how many,
right.
how I'd have to find a big apartment complex or multiple. I was looking at that time, I thought I was going to do like 3 and 4 flats or three,
Yep.
I was in Chicago at that early days. And then, it's less of like a flat, more of like a
Yep.
threeplex, fourplex in St. Louis. And I was like, I think it's going to take too long. Let me try this mobile home park thing and see if it works out. And sure enough, first park I bought, within $1,000 covered what my wife was making for the year after tax.
In what period of time? That was like
So
the cash flow throw off from that property, like
yeah,
on a monthly basis. So,
immediately. Yeah,
and it just was doing that every month. Then, so every month it was kicking off more than she was making as a teacher.
that's right. That's right.
Wow.
Yeah. The guy that I bought it from, did a seller finance deal with me. Really nice guy, kind of got me started and, bought another one off him and did the same thing. And that covered our survival income. So just, bare minimum of mortgage and utilities and car payments. And then I bought a third one and that one covered our lifestyle. I
Okay.
flipped that one and bought 2 other parks. So in a year and a day, I sold it to get long-term capital gains. But then I flipped it and did a 1031 anyway into 2 other properties.
Yeah.
And then we were making, more money than what it cost us to live, like a lot more. I mean, we were making just on the cash flow from that, we were making more than our earned income, which meant that I didn't even have to reduce the amount I was investing, right? Because I was
Yeah.
living at about 50% of what I was making when I was with
Yep.
Cutco. So I had 50% that I was saving to invest.
Yep.
And then, when we bought those other 2 properties, my investing stayed the same, but
Yep.
then I'm building equity and I have the cash flow. So we truly just bought our time back and, we're at a point that we didn't actually have to work anymore.
Wow. So how long would you say from that first asset investment to when you said, oh man, I could leave my job if I wanted to? How many years passed or how much time?
Yeah, I mean, it was really fast. So from the time I went to that boot camp, within 6 months, I found a property, and that's when I bought that one for my wife. The second one was right away. So same time frame. The third one was the following year, and then another year until we sold it and bought the other. So I mean, we're talking 2 years.
Couple years.
Yeah.
And so does it strike you like I'm going to do this? I'm going to leave my over a decade invested time, well, great career, people making videos of you, people screaming your name, right? Putting you on stages, and you're going to leave that. What was that? Talk about that transition.
Yeah, I got clear that there were things that were just bigger and more important to me than the ego that's keeping me there. And also it's funny, like I was systematizing more. I was hiring really good people. I was doing less and less work. So you would look at it on paper and you'd be like, I mean, people told me I was crazy. People are like, what are you doing? You literally could be making twice as much money if you stayed,
Mm,
right?
yep.
But but I remember saying my goal was to never earn twice as much. My goal was to just buy my time back completely. So I'm not trying to make, X, I just need to make Y. And if I
Right.
make Y, then I can make all these decisions, right? And back then it was, I think I was making 500,000 a year with Cutco and I was making 500,000 a year in passive income.
Yeah.
And so, $1 million a year, my friends thought I was nuts.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But 500,000 is all I needed. I mean, it
Right.
was more than I needed.
Yeah.
And so
That's
I
the
just
truth.
said, I don't think it's worth the mental, it just clogs me up. I don't have the freedom to think freely. I don't have the long blocks of time that I need to um, figure out what's next, right? It is a little too consuming for me.
Yeah. There's a cost to it.
There is.
Yeah. It's interesting because I've been in some networking groups where there's some very successful guys trying to figure out how to leave a W-2, and they come to that same calculus where you can feel them, and you ask the question like, well, how much of your expenses are covered by your side income thing that you've been building? And they're like 100%. So the question is, well, when are you going to leave?
Yeah.
And the answer is, well, maybe in like 6 months. And then you're like, wait, but what's holding you back? And the answer that is unspoken often, but what is true is, I'm going to have to take a 50% pay cut.
Yep.
So whatever that income is, like for your example, it was 500 and 500. It's like, I'm going to go from a million. I've got to get okay with this idea that I'm going to go from a million to 500 grand, which I haven't lived at in a while, but I have to know that my expenses are covered, my lifestyle is covered. And what can I then do with the space I create by leaving the thing that's also providing me 500 grand, but what's the cost to me in terms of time? And that is such a hard leap for people that I've observed do that, go to that same calculus. And they're like, nope, I'm not quite ready, not quite ready, not quite ready. It's like, dude, you're always going to take a massive pay cut when you leave that thing
Mhm.
behind. You have to get okay with it.
It's interesting because, I took more time than I probably needed to. Part of it is I wanted to do it safely for my wife. My wife loves safety and security.
Yeah.
So, like a cleaner plan of, hey, we've built the income up first versus just jumping ship. I
Yep.
actually think I would have been fine jumping ship and maybe I would have been, better off for me. It definitely wouldn't have been better off for her.
Yep.
So I'm glad I did it the slow way. But the interesting thing is the moment I got rid of the thing that was taking up the most mental capacity for me, which was my job,
Mm.
my work. I had idea after idea after idea, and my income. So it's not like we stayed at 500K. I
Mm.
mean, the first year out, I think I made an extra 750,000 to $1 million on totally like other stuff, but I had the space to think about it. So my income just took off, and my income since then has grown every single year.
Yeah.
But I would have never had the ability to create if I didn't have the space to think.
Yeah. I love that. And then also having the time and the opportunity for things that God can bring to you for you to
Yeah,
actually be able to act on them, right? As opposed
that's
to, man,
right.
just can't because all my hours are consumed. And I know you're in the read in, I talked about your daughter. So at this point, you've got a family, you've got a child, your daughter. Do you
Just one.
more?
Yeah.
Okay. So you got your daughter. And so you want to be there for her, and you committed to like, I want to be there for all the recitals and the things and all this stuff. And so keeping that value front and center, it sounds like, was a key component of, look, I'm not doing this for the money right out of the gate, but when you took away all that other stuff so that you could focus on your family, being there for them, yeah, the safety pieces were created. It allowed you to then be able to take advantage of what God had laid out for you or had
Yeah,
available to you.
certainly did. And that quality time was always important to me. And luckily, I was able to kind of hit the eject button early enough on that I totally controlled my schedule, and I've been able to attend the sporting events and the recitals, rehearsals, all the things, which is really cool. But I knew that that's how I wanted to do it. I mean, I remember my dad. I always loved when my dad was able to make it to games. My
Mm,
mom went to everything. But my dad worked so much. And so when he made it, it was real special. But I just remember thinking like, I just want to be at them all. I don't
yeah,
want to, have this competing thing for, to me, what the most important time I spend is. It's not work, it's faith, it's family,
Yep.
it's friends, then it's business.
Right. I love
And,
that.
and throw my own personal health in there. I've got to make sure that I'm, staying healthy so I can be good and show up strong for all those other areas.
Your family, for sure. Do you have a story? This is a common thing that I've heard from people that have made big life pivots like you have. A story where people that were close to you were in your ear telling you you're an idiot for doing what you're about to do, right? Either a family, a father, or friends or loved ones, or coworkers. Like, dude, what are you doing? You've built this amazing career. How could you leave it? Did you have that?
Luckily, my parents have always been supportive in everything, and they've never really given me a hard time. I mean, they thought it was real funny. I was going to sell knives at first, right? But like even then, they were fine. They were supportive, but they've always been great. They've always given me a lot of space. They've always kind of let me be me and be really independent, super, macro, not micro with me. But yeah, I had a lot of friends and mentors that thought I was crazy for a lot of things. I mean, ton of people. I had a ton of mentors that are like, mobile home parks. Are you kidding me?
Right.
Uh, I would run, and I'm glad I didn't listen to them.
Yeah.
My friends that played the short game all thought that I should stay and continue making money and keep the safe thing and double up. But I looked at the long game and I knew what I wanted. I was just clear on what I wanted. So that was it. It's not that I was trying, it's not that they didn't get it. It was that I was so clear on what it is that I wanted.
Mm.
It was an easy pivot,
Yeah.
but it is always a little concerning when the majority is against you. And
Right.
sometimes you have people that, um, they're so close to you, they don't want it to change. They
Right.
want it to stay the same. They don't want you to have these cool, unique opportunities because it might change things. They're afraid of maybe losing you. And I could sense that in a handful of
Yeah.
relationships.
Yeah. And I think it often comes from a place of love too. Like they don't want you to get hurt, right? They don't want you
Yep.
to, there's that fear, and or they apply that change to themselves and they think, oh my gosh, that's so scary to me. And so they project that back onto you, like, don't do that scary thing. And you might be thinking,
Yep.
I'm not that scared. Like I'm
Yeah.
excited. Right. But they're scared. And so they project that, like, don't harm yourself. I think it's often done out of love, um, yeah, on that, but which is also what makes it challenging to push through it. Cause you're like, this person loves me, cares about me. I love them. And how do I, maybe they're seeing something I'm missing, and
Yeah.
what if they're right? And so it's having that courage that, did you have a moment where you thought, I can always go back to Cutco or Vector?
Yeah, I did. So number one, I felt like if I ever want to go back, I can. There are also other places that had been trying to recruit me for a long time. So I knew I had other options. So
Mm.
in my mind, you had said earlier that a lot of time it's hard for people to leave, um, because they're going to take a pay cut. And I think the other side of that coin, I think that is the primary. But I think like a secondary to that is they're afraid of the unknown.
Yes.
And I wasn't afraid of the unknown anymore. I think I was for a while until I wasn't. And
Yeah.
then I was like, what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
And also like I prayed through it and I had a lot of peace. It
Yeah.
it wasn't, now I remember waking up a couple of nights like in cold sweats, like, what am I doing? I'm gonna invest all this money in a mobile home park. Is this
Right.
crazy? But I also remember like getting out of my head, getting out of my emotional heart and getting into my head and saying, wait a minute, other people have done the same thing.
Yeah.
I've got the playbook. If I follow the playbook, I'm gonna be just fine. If I'm 70% as good as them, that's way better than the situation I currently have. And so that gave me, confidence, but also just needing to make some moves. Like I was just ready.
Yeah.
I'd done the same thing for a long time and I was ready for the next thing. And I really did have peace. I feel like, um, I would pray like, God, open the doors that you want me to take and close the doors that you don't. And I felt
Totally.
like the doors were open, and I felt
Yeah.
like if there was a closed door, I would know it. I would see it. I would feel it. I would experience it, and I just didn't.
I love that. I want to come back to that. I'm curious. I want to ask you at some point about your morning routines and things, and if you've got a prayer, like a prayer routine or prayer schedule, how you work with prayer into your life. I definitely want to come to that. Before I get to that, let's talk about now you're fully stepping into this role of this lifestyle investing, and you're expanding your thoughts around what that even could be as you now have time to think and have those long blocks of time. Talk about your lifestyle investing model. Like what is your philosophy, and how have you built that as you built this business?
Yeah, well, what ended up happening is I had friends that were like, "Hey, Justin, you know, I may have given you a hard time along the way, but you've clearly figured something out. You've achieved financial freedom, and I'd like it for my family. Can you show me what you've done?" So a lot of it was just kind of like, what have I done? How did I do it? How do I teach it to other people? And I had friends for years that were like, "You need to write a book, or you need to teach a class, or do something." And so I decided I would just jump into all of it. And so when I wrote the Lifestyle Investor, the book, this is, what about 6 years ago or so? I mean, I didn't have a following. I didn't have an email list. I didn't have anything. My buddy said, "Hey, if you sell 10,000 copies of the book in the life of the book, that's really good. That's like top 5%." So I set my goal that I will sell 10,000 copies in the lifetime of, my book.
Yeah.
And we hit it on either day two or day three. And I was like, wait a
Gee,
minute, what
what?
is going on here? So, I mean, it just went viral online. People read it and had breakthroughs and were sharing it. And so, it just morphed into this big thing. And so it ended up hitting number one Wall Street Journal on the bestseller, and USA Today as well, bestseller, and is now a top 1% of all books ever sold, over 1 million
What?
copies, which is really cool. And all the
Incredible.
proceeds go to fight human trafficking, which is something near and dear to my family's hearts. And we want to be able to support in that. And the podcast at the
That's
same time took off and is a top 1% of all downloaded podcasts in all categories. So it's really just, I feel like God has blessed it.
mm,
This was all, this started out as a total passion project. I wasn't doing it to make money. I wasn't taking any of the money for our family for
yeah.
living. We were giving it all away. We grew the mastermind from this, and that really took off. And it was the methodology of what I've built. And really, it's this desire that I have to democratize what single family offices are doing, namely billionaires. Billionaires hire these people and build what's called a family office. And if you're able to build one for just you, you're probably a billionaire or close to it, because it's 6 to 15 million a year to staff a full family office at full capacity.
That's
And
the cost
so,
structure of it.
yeah.
Yep.
And so I started studying what they're doing, and I thought, well, what if I just share this with my network? What if I teach the types of investments they're doing, but through the model of cash flow that I created success with? What if I use the same tax strategies? What if I created the same asset allocation that they're investing in? And what if we make this readily available to others that are not billionaires, and just to help them, figure it out? Because, most people, if they're working for someone else, the vast majority of their net worth is usually in the stock market. If they have their own business, usually the vast majority is in their business, and what's left over is in the stock market. But if you look at these single family offices, 50 to 60% of their net worth is actually in alternative investments.
Mm.
They usually only have about 15 to 25% of their net worth in the stock market. And so it's a total flip flop from what most people think. And so I noticed they have a different playbook. They compound their wealth because they're doing it different. For them, a diversified portfolio is 10 different asset classes.
Mm.
For everyone else, a diversified portfolio is a 60-40 split between stocks and bonds,
Right.
which, we now know that that's dead. I actually just went to an event with Prime Quadrant, who I use and we partner with a lifestyle investor. And they had Rick Reeder, the CIO of BlackRock, the largest
Yep.
asset manager in the world, over $13 trillion. And he said that the 60-40 split is effectively dead. It hasn't worked. I mean, it's been in the last 100 years, we've had two of the worst years
Yeah.
in our last 3 years.
Yep.
Right. So he's like, yeah. So even he's investing heavily in alts, working for, a traditional,
Yeah.
asset manager.
Investment
So
house. Yeah.
it's really fascinating to see, but it's been really rewarding helping so many people in our community invest smarter, create cash flow so they can buy their time back, create, like, utilize really epic, and really just like world-class tax strategy that's out there, that's available. People just don't know about it. And then take those dollars and that are left over that would go to the government, but now you can invest them to compound wealth or create more experiences, or, truly just live life better with.
Yeah. And so for the listener, when you talk about alternative investments, describe what that is, real estate or how that.
Yeah. So real estate, private equity, so private companies, private credit, and I would put Bitcoin. A lot of people would say crypto. I'm just going to specifically say Bitcoin. I think crypto is more gambling and Bitcoin is more of a sure thing.
Okay. And so when you talk about owning businesses, is that was part of it? I think you said so.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've bought different businesses. We bought and sold. I've started a couple of companies, and those are a lot of work. They can be very lucrative. They're a lot of work. They're very time consuming.
Yep.
So I thought it'd be really cool to find top flight companies I could invest in where other people do all the
Doing
work.
the work.
And
Yeah.
my capital can earn a return, but my time is totally separate from it.
Yeah.
And so I've been doing that for about, I've been investing for about 25 or 26 years. I've been pretty heavy in alternative investments for 15 to 20 years,
Okay.
15 plus.
Yep.
And I started with mobile home parks, but I got into apartment complexes. I got into self-storage, industrial, retail, office. I mean, all kinds of things. And I've sold most of my positions now, except for mobile home parks and industrial. I started doing some private credit. I started investing in companies. I've had a number of companies that have done really well over the years. I really like secondaries. I do a lot of secondary investing. And we've just, I feel like I have timed cycles pretty well, and I've been in what's hot early, and I've gotten out before it died or before it took a big hit. And so, one of the things I talk about in my book is my third commandment. I have 10 commandments for cash flow investing, but my third one is finding invisible deals. And to me, some of that's finding off market deals, but also it's paying attention to the data of what is going to be mainstream, but isn't yet. So I got into mobile home parks early.
Mm.
Well, that was huge. I mean, now it's a massive industry, and private equity's all over it. But when I was in, 15 years ago,
Yep.
that was not the case. People thought I was crazy. So I got in at good pricing, and I did the same thing with single family home rentals. Back when I started getting into that space, they weren't even an asset class. Like, no one tracked SFR. It wasn't even a thing.
Yep.
I built a company to act as a, really like a maintenance company, like a service company for the large institutional owners that bought, basically right when Blackstone and many of these other big groups started scooping up homes by the 10,000 per transaction,
Yep.
And so it was seeing the timing, right? It was recognizing what's going to happen. And so I feel like I've done that many times in my career, and it's really worked out well for us.
Where does that come from, man? Being able to see that stuff before it hits.
Well, I am a bit of a data geek. Like, I like to learn, like we talked about. I like looking over some reports. I like, gathering the stuff, but I also feel like I get a piece of just peace in my heart, in my mind on things. I'm very prayerful in my approach. Now I got to be able to decipher between what's me and what's not me.
Yeah.
I've still made plenty of mistakes, and my whole thing, and I'll keep making mistakes. My whole thing is I don't want to make the same mistake twice. I want to keep having better quality mistakes,
Yeah.
But every time I make a mistake, it's a good learning experience. But if I can get outside of what I think and what I want, I generally can have a good peace about decisions that I'm making,
Mm,
through prayer and um, through just not making emotional decisions, not
yeah.
rushing it.
I want to talk about that before we run too short a time is this idea of prayer and then also working hard but not feeling like you're in control. So, and I've heard this described as just loosening your grip, right? So it's not like, hey, I'm just kind of flipping along, right? Because I don't think you can be an outlier and just sort of sit back, right?
Right.
People that are outliers are driven, and yet how do we stay driven, but also flexible enough that you're willing to accept, hey, I might not see everything right. I might not be seeing it all. So I'm willing to pivot. I'm not squeezing the grip on this thing so tight that I can't, see the ball coming, right? If that's a terrible analogy, but I got to have a loose enough grip that I'm willing to flex and adapt. And that's about, to me, giving into a higher power, giving into God and saying, there is a God, I am not him. And so I have to be open to what he's got designed for me. But talk about that if you would, because you've hit upon it a few times.
Yeah, I just try to be with big decisions, and really I should be better about this with all decisions, but at least I'm doing it with big decisions where I try and I pray through it and I pay attention to the peace that I have around it, and or the angst that I have around it, and I try and make decisions based on that. But yeah, I mean, I do think that prayer is powerful, and I do think that God's always speaking to us, and that generally we're not very good at listening, and I'm just trying to be better at listening.
Yeah, love that. Do you have a morning routine of exercise, prayer, journaling, anything like that? What's that look like?
Yeah, so I do read at least a verse a day. I like to kind of get started with some sort of scripture and some sort of prayer. Um, some days that's how I begin. Some days I will work out and then I'll do that. Usually it's the first thing that I do. Um, I do get a workout in 6 of 7 days. I try to have a rest day.
Yeah.
Um, I like getting in 10,000 steps. I like drinking, a huge, 24 ounces of water the first thing I wake up, and then,
Oh,
keep
wow.
keep drinking
Yeah.
throughout the day, get my electrolytes, do my supplements, get started with a good meal. I generally have a very big breakfast, one of my biggest meals.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And I read every morning. I love to read.
Yeah.
I feel like the more that I learn, the more like inspired and excited I am to teach. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, there's always something that I'm interested in that I'll read and learn.
Fantastic. A couple of the quick questions around you talked about buying these businesses and kind of diving into some of that and how they can be time consuming. Having left a corporate life 4 years ago, over 4 years ago myself, and being what I would call a solopreneur, it's very easy, especially for me, and I see it in others, to just do more and more and more and use up more and more of the clock to just do more stuff, right? And certainly owning a business is a massive undertaking, right? You invest in a business, this idea, and I see it on the internet, I see it on social media of like, hey, just buy a business and then sit back and watch the money come in. And it's like, no, there's a
Mhm.
million things that can happen there. And so how do you buy a business or invest in buy a property and not be the person painting the walls, fixing the toilets, doing all this stuff. Everyone always talks about toilets when it comes to real estate for some reason. There's a lot going on there, but how do you or run a business and not have fake employees being set up and fake vendors and losing all, there's time, right? So how do you scale and not just have your own employee, like you're working for yourself harder than you ever worked for anybody else, right?
Yeah, I think part of it's having good boundaries, what you're willing to do and not willing to do. Part of it is, I won't buy a business unless I have the operator for it, or it comes with an operator that I'd want to keep around.
Yeah.
That one is like the most important one, and having some sort of a succession plan if it doesn't work out, so that because if you don't, you are the operator. So
Yes.
my goal is I'm never the operator. I have many businesses. I'm not the operator of any of them. In early days, I was the operator of some of them.
Yeah.
But that's not what I want. I want more simplicity and less complexity, as I get older. And so it's an easy no for me on the business front if it's not a good operator or if I don't have one. And even on the investment side of things, like if I'm investing in a company, like I need to know that operator is top notch, and I need to know that there's a backup plan and what that succession plan looks like. So that to me is paramount.
Gotcha. Very good. All right. So if someone's listening and they're like, man, this sounds great, but my head's spinning, I don't even know where to start. What would you recommend someone do to start buying their time back and get started?
Well, I mean, I think it's interesting. In my podcast, I end every episode asking the audience a question. What's one step you can take today to move towards financial freedom and
Yeah.
and really move towards a life by design, not by default? And so part of it is being willing to learn. The other part of it is like putting it into action. And I think one of the best habits that I formed when I was very young, this is going back, I mean, pretty much right as I became a working professional, is I would take someone to breakfast, lunch, dinner, or coffee once a week
Yeah.
and pick their brain, learn from them, get to know them, and really see what makes them tick and what can I learn from them. And I've done that for over 20 years now, at least one person. Usually it's more than that over the course of the week. And there's a compounding that happens from that time, from those thousands of hours. So that's a simple way to do it. It's simple. It's not easy.
Yeah.
But you could also do, I mean, I didn't have the network early on. So for me, it was just reading. We didn't have podcasts, back then. I listen to a ton of podcasts today. I love it. So
Right.
I read, I listen to podcasts, I meet with people. I'm intentional with my time and who I'm spending it with. And part of that is who I can learn from and who can help grow me into the next better leader that I'm designed to be or that I desire to be.
Right on. Love it. What's next for you, Justin? What's on the plate and what are you excited about?
Well, we've got the Lifestyle Investor Kids book coming out here really soon. So I'm thrilled about that. It's a really cool walk down. It's a story of mine and my COO's 4 kids. Each of them plays a role in this book called The Money Club. And they all learn to manage money, start businesses, invest that money. And it's a really neat look. So that's starting soon. That should come out here in the next number of weeks. And I'm just excited to appeal to another, we've got the Lifestyle Investor Flagship Mastermind. We've got the Tribe of Investors Mastermind. We've got our Foundations Mastermind, which is for young adults, 18 to 35-year-olds, 34-year-olds. And then this is to kids, and it'll be, kids 6 to 18 years old. So we're really able to, cover all the areas. And I actually think parents will learn a lot from these books as they read them to their kids. But some of the kids will be old enough to read it. And at the end of each chapter, there are 2 paths. Or if you're a younger kid, there's this path. If you're an older kid, there's this path with some action steps. So it's pretty neat.
Fantastic, man. What great stuff. Where can people find you and connect with this work that you've got out there?
Yeah, lifestyleinvestor.com is the best place. We've got our masterminds and master classes and podcast, book, all those things, tons of free giveaways, a lot of content for free there. But also for someone that's ready to kind of figure out what's next, like how do I get from point A to point B? What I'd love to do for your audience is just offer up. We've got these consultation calls, these strategy sessions that we do. That we generally charge $500, and someone from our team, spends time and kind of helps people map it out and what would be best for them to take the next steps. But I'd love to just offer it to your audience for free. So if you go to lifestyleinvestor.com/consultation, you can get a free call with someone on our team to help figure out what could be next for you.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for that kind gift. That's a super, super nice gesture of you. Appreciate that for our audience. And Justin, thank you, man, for your time today. What a great conversation. So enjoyed it. I could keep on rolling, but I promised you I would, manage the clock, and I've done a terrible job of that. I've taken you 5 minutes over, so I apologize.
Oh, that's all right. I'm having a blast.
Yeah, it's a great conversation. Really, really appreciate it and appreciate your time so much.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. Great being on the show.
Fantastic. To our audience, thank you for taking time from your busy day to listen to the show. Always appreciate that you do that. Hey, please write a nice review for us, share the program with a friend, give us a star rating. All those things help us reach a broader audience. Until next time, friends, I'm Eric Sardina. You've been listening to the Return to Authenticity podcast, and bye for now.